Hello.
Hello there.
Okay.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm a little bit nervous.
Surely.
I haven't interviewed anyone before on live anything. Okay, so full transparency, you're a friend of mine.
Absolutely.
But I'm still going to hold you to, questions that I have here.
100%. And I would like to say at the outset that if two people agree on everything, one of them isn't necessary. If I say nothing that doesn't trigger a disagreement in you or anybody else, I've not done my job today.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So first, a little bit about you. How did you find yourself in Marseilles to begin with?
Okay, so 18 years ago, I came down here on an idle Tuesday. I worked in a very stressful but high-paying job in Evanston.
Okay.
And our one day off a week was on Tuesdays. So we kind of knew we had to get out of town, had to move. And what I did was, at the time, I had a full-time job in Evanston, and then I taught part-time in Joliet.
Okay.
So we drew a 40-mile circumference around Joliet,
Yeah.
started in Marseilles. We were going to work our way back toward Joliet.
Okay.
But we came to Marseilles, fell in love with it. When I drove down Rutland into town,
Yep.
the natural beauty just really sort of brought something out in us. We had moved from Nitro, West Virginia, not too far, maybe 6 or 7 years before that.
Okay.
And it kind of reminded us of West Virginia. And then when we got into town and everybody was really nice and almost like a surreal, preternatural feeling of calm, kind of like we're meant to be here. And so when we checked out the house and then we went to an establishment on Main Street and said, hey, the property here is so cheap, what's wrong with the place?
Good question.
And the owner said, place is fine, but people all know your business.
Okay.
And my attitude was, I got nothing to hide.
Yep.
That's fine. If everybody knows that I'm kind of a boring, married man with 2 young kids and a wife who's pregnant, that's fine. They can know my business, and that's kind of how I ended up here. I immediately noticed just how friendly, accessible, affordable this area was.
It's very small town compared to Joliet or Evanston.
100%.
Yeah, it's
100%.
kind of like, I used to live in Woodstock, and it has that like small town, almost movie with the downtown area, and the way it opens up with the river, it's beautiful.
Very much so. And so Garrettsville, Ohio would be another example of a city that's kind of like this.
Okay.
And it brings out, I think, the best in people. Natural beauty, in my opinion, brings out the personal beauty in humanity.
Right.
And the fact that we're not a cookie-cutter suburb really speaks to me.
Right.
So I grew up in Hillside. And Hillside is a great town, proud to be from there. But Hillside versus Berkeley versus Melrose Park versus Bellwood, you have no idea where one suburb ends and another suburb begins.
Right.
There's no real character. Whereas here, there's a character. 175 years old. This is an amazing place.
Yep.
And Sprague's Curse and Nabisco and, named after the industrial center of Marseille, France. I love every part of it. And I think that we need to really accentuate where we're from rather than run away from it.
And that brings me to my next question. What do you think about bringing economic diversity to Marseilles? Because we do have a beautiful downtown area, but I feel like there are some holes in it. All cities have a hard time keeping their downtowns lively, but I think Ottawa, and I've seen Ottawa go through, towards switching and restaurants closing, and they're still opening new places, but it's hard to stay in business. So how do you think that Marseilles can reach out and help those businesses fill those spots and stay open?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for that. So I think number one is government needs to get out of the way.
Okay.
So when we do not put artificial barriers on economic activity, I think economic activity comes.
For example?
Well, so if I want to open up a small business, there's going to be licensing issues. There's going to be planning commission issues. There's going to be various hurdles you have to overcome to get to operate in town.
So get rid of some of that red tape.
We'll also have a bias towards letting people operate in town.
Sure.
So a bias towards if you want to operate a business in town,
Let's
go
help
for it.
you. Let's
Exactly
make that
so.
easy.
Yes. Let's remove the artificial barriers to entry.
Okay.
100%. So I'll give you an example. We have, I've been talking to somebody who has now opened a landscape supply outfit in town. I'm very grateful that he has done so.
Yeah.
And my thought is, let's get out of his way. If he wants to bring business into town, it's not immediately deleterious to his immediate surroundings, go for it.
Right.
And so, and this is an issue where maybe I would disagree with some of my supporters.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to open up a tattoo parlor, I say go for it.
Sure.
If you're not an immediate hazard to those around you, go for it.
Right, and that's very libertarian to be like, if you can make it, let's let you try.
Well, and I'll give you an
See if
immediate.
you can stand on your own feet, and we'll try to help support you.
Absolutely so.
If you think there's money in it, let's see you give it a go. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Now, do I want a brothel north of town coming out off Beatty? No, I don't.
Not in my backyard.
That's exactly right. Not in my backyard. However, I think our bias has to be let people try and fail, not let's put an impediment to productivity.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of ums right now.
No, that's all right. We welcome ums.
I have a very real bias towards let people do what they want on their property and in their business.
Yes.
And if it's immediate, if it's burning garbage, we can talk about that. Let's deal with that. But if somebody has a car on their property, in their property where the tag is expired, I just don't see the government's prevailing interest in dealing with that question.
For that.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And so I would think that the best way to welcome people and businesses into an area is to tell them, you're welcome here. We're not out to get you.
Right.
If you can, if you have a victimless operation, we want to help you do what you're doing.
Right. Yes, and back to the car sitting in your property. If your car, we don't want every property to be a junkyard just because of critters and the way the town looks. You want it to look nice, but if your car's not running and you're saving money to get it running, finding someone isn't going to be helpful to that.
10,000%.
So if you can work with people, that's such a better way to go about it than just, outright finding everyone.
Well, yes, the carrot, not the stick.
Right.
And so that's my attitude toward it. So, for example, Washington School,
Yes.
I would say, how can we help you make your property commercial?
It is
Make your
beautiful.
property viable. That facade is unbelievable.
I love that place.
So much potential there. Why don't we work together to make that viable?
Yeah.
And then if you don't go for it, then maybe the stick comes later.
Sure.
But let's actually try to be proactive in getting these places operational and moving forward. And back on the tax rolls, by the way.
Yes. And the Nabisco building.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about the Nabisco? It's not that expensive to buy. That's not the issue.
Sure.
It's coming up with the money to make it something that someone can use.
So,
Attracting a business to that specific place.
well, it'll have to be several businesses.
Sure.
The build out on Nabisco is going to be $20-30 million.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 1.5 million
No,
in
that's
environmental remediation. I mean, you're dealing with very real expenses.
Yep.
And so the number one thing has to be the city of Marseilles saying, we will be very bendable, very malleable as to what you want to do there. So I would be interested in, say, urban gardening. I would be very interested in mixed use. Let's say there is, back to the but there's like storage on one floor,
Sure.
maybe retail on another, maybe condos on another.
Right,
We have to go out of our way to tell potential investors, we will work with you to make this brownfield something productive.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we've done that. We've not really marketed Nabisco as something that could be a growth opportunity for an investor,
Okay.
and we will bend toward you. We don't want you to bend toward us.
Yeah,
We're the ones sitting.
Work with you.
Yes, we're the ones. We're the ones sitting on this great big brownfield,
Yeah.
and we would like to make it productive.
Sure. And again,
100%.
the tax revenue
Yes.
could be huge from that.
Well, oh, very much so. I mean, so like that's the story of eBay. eBay made a bunch of capital locked in somebody's basements marketable.
Yeah.
You could turn that into
Right.
capital. And I think that you can do that with Nabisco.
Okay.
I really believe that there is unrealized potential in Nabisco that we're just sitting on because we are stuck on it's worth this and you must do what we tell you to do something with it. And I think that's intrinsically deleterious to productivity.
What made you decide you wanted to be a commissioner?
Okay, so I had no idea what I was getting into.
That's
You know,
probably true.
and so I think that if I were to go back in time and tell myself, hey, this
is what this is going to look
is
like.
what's going on, I would never have done it.
Right.
But I have to bring in my faith. I believe that God kept that from me so that I would do exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I got into being a commissioner in part because I had all the schooling in political science.
Yes.
You know, I have a master's in political science. I taught political science for 19 years in various institutions, St. Francis, Lewis, Rock Valley, Heartland, Illinois Central. I was everywhere. And it kind of occurred to me, well, now I have a chance to put my theory into practice. And I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that I had no idea that a small town would have so many issues that it did. And then once I brought out those issues, I thought people would immediately think, this ain't okay.
Right.
And I didn't get that. And that was surprising and very disappointing. I'm truly hurt by people thinking something is acceptable that I thought was rejected 60 years ago. Give you an example. The mayor threatened my job on 2 occasions. Everybody knows that he did it. I said it at the city council meeting. The local paper knows that he did it. And nobody had
Anything to say.
Nobody seems to be terribly interested
They're
in
like,
that.
oh, okay.
I would think that would be story 1.
Sure.
I am being sued for a very benign statement. 5 honest people could run City Hall working 1 hour a day. You're going to sue someone for that?
Right.
Yeah, I think that, and so does 100 other people.
Sure.
And not only that, but I was talking about the city council. 5. 4 commissioners, 1 mayor. 4 plus 1 is 5. The fact that you can sue somebody over such a statement that called nobody dishonest,
Yep.
wasn't even referring to city employees, and yet here we are. That has a very chilling impact on public discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time I have said, we are limiting the rights of people to freely disagree. And
Speaking of limiting the rights of people disagreeing, how do you think that people in Marseilles, if you were mayor, how would you deal with conflicts of residents, or what do you think the best forum or way residents could communicate their concerns and needs with you? I don't think that Facebook is working. It's a great way to keep track of how your grandkids are doing because they live 3,000 miles away or whatever, and it might be a great way to discuss things, but I don't know that it's mayor-citizen communication.
yeah, so
Do you think that could be improved?
I greatly appreciate the question, but I disagree.
Okay.
I think that Facebook is the perfect way
Okay.
because people are always on it, right?
That's true.
And I'm always on it. And not always. I mean,
Right.
so in fairness, I do work for a living. However, if somebody brings a question to the city of Marseilles, for one, I think that the comment section should be open always.
If it's open, it's open.
If it's open, it's open. If it's open, it's open.
Morris is always closed. There are no comments ever, but that's always the case.
And
So
and
one
that,
or the other.
well, entirely so. And a year and a half ago, this was the advice I was given by an attorney that I know and love.
Okay.
Either let everyone
Yes.
comment or no one comment.
Right.
And that's been my attitude toward things that are said on Facebook of friends of mine that I might not agree with, but I'm either going to shush nobody or everyone. And my attitude is I choose no.
Okay.
And I think that's the way that Marseilles should operate.
Yep.
If someone has a question, I want to hear it.
Okay.
And even if they've asked it 3 or 4 times, if I answer it 3 or 4 times, I think that's a good thing. It shows I have nothing to hide. And if my answer changes, it might be because I saw
Influences from other people asking or giving advice.
So
We learn things and we change the way we feel. That's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
It's also okay to change your mind.
Right?
It's also okay to have new information that makes you change your
And
mind.
it's okay to look back and say, you know what? I thought that was the right thing then, but now I know better, so I'm going to try to do better.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And maybe, so even with the building, you might hear 1.345 in my past. That was the purchase price of the building.
Sure.
Now it's 2.3,
Wow.
but then in reality it's 2.7. So there's cost overruns and everything. And I
Right.
think that you have to.
And that's just government. I mean, have you seen a government that's like, no, we're saving tons of money? Not very often.
Well, indeed, but I think that government has to, especially local government, because we're the closest to the people.
Yeah.
You know what? It cost this much more than we thought it would cost.
Yes.
And I think that if I had a good argument for not spending $2.3 million on a building, I have that much better of an argument for not spending $2.72 million. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not that the building was without its merits.
Sure.
And I was very clear that it's good for a city to control the riverfront. It's good for there not to be an empty building. Absolutely so. I was there twice this morning.
Yeah.
But I think that what people fail to realize, same thing with the park is that there are things you can't see that are much more serious. There's the sewers that fail. There's the sidewalks that people with wheelchairs can't use. There's the park that's inaccessible, frankly.
Yep.
You know, there are bigger, and so you also have Illinois Street, where kids cannot safely ride their bikes to get to the nice new park.
Yes, I've walked on Illinois Street to get kids to school, and I can't believe the surface. I can't believe it.
It's absolutely embarrassing.
It's like third world.
And then you're going to build this nice park right next to this road that is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And another thing, you have a $2.72 million Taj Mahal for a community that the poverty is 16%,
Right.
and for our kids in school, it's 29%.
Wow.
29.4% of our kids going to Marseilles Elementary School are from families under poverty. And we're building a Taj Mahal to ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a legitimate cause for concern.
Yeah.
Even though it's a nice building,
Yeah.
even though it's nicer than what we have, it's ADA accessible. The building is not the park, but the building is. It's not that there are no positives
Right, so
to
on
it.
paper, if you're just talking about the building, this is all good. But
Yes.
when you compare it to other needs in the community, perhaps the money could have been spent in different ways. That would
100%,
have been
yes.
More advantageous for the people who live here.
100%.
Okay. Let's see. So you have a mayor who is running on his accomplishments, as he says, his record of accomplishments. What are you running on to get votes? I feel like, if I may guess, transparency is your jam. That's how I met you, or got to a place where I was very interested in what you're doing, because I didn't know you from anybody, but I saw you on Facebook talking about transparency. I welcome you to argue with me. I want to hear both sides. Teach me what you think, you know? And so that was very intriguing to me, because I don't hear people say that.
So I'm very big on accountability.
Yes, you are.
I'm also very big on the concept that I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And so so there is nothing controversial that does not have two sides.
Right.
And I want to hear both sides.
Yeah.
The park, great example. On my side, don't redo the park. Kids were already using it, and we had more important things to do. On the other side, a nicer park's going to draw in potential residents. It's going to be a positive image for the city.
It's
The
nice
fact
for
is,
that immediate neighborhood.
yes, very much.
I work next to the park, and I love seeing that place just packed on days like this. It brings me so much joy to see how many people are excited to be there. I saw people playing pickleball the other day, and an older, few couples playing. And so, yeah, on the other side of that, I love that people are flocking to it.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
But,
Something can be very valuable
Yes.
without being affordable.
Right.
So I bought a house for $60,000
Yes.
in 2007. October 31st, moved here February of 2008.
Okay.
Could I have gotten a nicer house?
Sure.
Perhaps. I could not afford
Afford
it.
a nicer house. Yep.
There were wants I couldn't have. There was a need that I could.
Yes.
And I feel very strongly that good roads, good sidewalks, accessible parks.
We're back to the infrastructure.
Exactly so. Are more important than a good-looking building. Pickleball courts.
The term lipstick on a pig is
Yes.
coming to mind, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, because I do like the city, but I feel like we're trying to dress up areas of it without handling the base of the town.
Well, and this, I think, is a very good faith disagreement that we have. I think that if you have a strong center, the expansion will come naturally. Whereas I feel like the majority on the council wants to expand,
Sure.
and then that will bring the growth. I think you make the core healthy, the growth will come. People want to live in LaSalle County. The number one destination of U-Hauls from Cook and DuPage County in Illinois is LaSalle County.
Really?
People want to live here. Well, no, I heard that from the U-Haul dealer in town.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so 100% people want to be
funny.
here.
Yeah.
So make it healthy,
Right.
make the core healthy, and growth will come. Do not overextend yourself. So me, myself, I have 4 cars, and they are all 20 years old.
Yep.
Because I can
Same.
afford them.
Yeah.
I would much rather have something I can afford
Yes.
and then grow from there than to overextend myself
Right.
in credit.
And then just
So if you look at water and sewer out to 80, that's over $8 million.
Yeah.
$2.3 million for the building, and we'll have to
And there's
borrow
nothing
more.
here yet, and I don't know if it's
100%.
coming or if it's coming. We didn't have any promises that anything was coming. We just built hoping, to reach out to something that was coming, instead of maybe improving the buildings downtown or trying to fill those first. We already have those buildings, and water and sewer is already there. Why not fill what we have, like you said, and then if we outgrow that space, that beautiful downtown area, cool, let's work our way north, that's fine. But to just say, hey, 3 miles north, let's spend $2 million to get water up there. I don't understand.
100%.
And I think, I might be wrong, I think that the mayor of Ottawa did that decades ago. Really pushed for that northern development. And it ended up working, but it took a long time. So I don't know what the timeline would be on that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of speaking from ignorance here because I'm not very familiar with the
Same.
Ottawa situation.
Same.
However, you have a larger population, you're like bringing a Walmart, the Walmart was already there.
Yep.
And so, but having said that, I do understand that there is a gamble that can be taken.
Sure.
But why gamble when you have a core that you can make that much better?
And the water and sewer was run at the same time that the building was bought, at the same time that the park was built. Like maybe we could have spaced them out 5 years apart instead of doing 3 really big things all at once.
Well, I mean, the water and sewer had been 50 years in the making.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
no, I think that was just sort of like the
It
life
just
of
felt like it just happened. At the
Yeah,
same time.
no. In my thing was when you're already extended, when you're already in a hole, stop digging.
Sure.
When you're already overextended in geo bonds, stop taking out new ones.
Sure.
And that was, people ask me, well, okay, the building is dead and buried. Why are you fighting this? Because then we spent money we didn't have on a park. I'm trying to introduce the concept of fiscal responsibility.
Right, like you
because
teach your kids.
because you and I have to do that, right? And we teach our kids, don't spend more than you can afford. Well, then that has to happen in the city as well.
Yeah.
And sure, would I love a nice? I must frankly admit that I have not seen my office in the new building.
Right.
I kind of feel like it's George Costanza and Seinfeld. I'm pretty sure I have the least possible nice one.
Right.
I
The
have these-
smallest one.
Yeah, I'm sure
There's
I'm
no windows.
I'm sure I'm right there by the bathroom. But I've not actually seen it. But I would much rather make wise choices for the benefit of the people than have a nice new office.
Sure.
Than to look like, behold the greatness that is me. And I really think that is a problem that we have in Marseilles is we want to be noticed. And I think that as public service servants, that should be the opposite. We should be pushing forward progress, and if people notice us, great, but the Bible says, let another man's praise you and not your own lips.
Yeah.
And there's something to that.
Don't pull muscles, pat yourself on the back.
Yes.
So your office, are you going to be there 40 hours a week?
Good heavens, no.
Okay.
If I'm mayor, I will be there 5 hours a week. Because we are a city of 5,000, and my bias is the government that does the least works the best.
Are you going to continue being a postman?
100%.
Awesome.
I believe very strongly
I think
in
it's fun to have the mayor deliver the mail. It's fun,
I believe very strongly in the citizen legislator model. There are state legislators that are part-time legislators.
Yeah.
I believe in New Hampshire they pay you $250 a year to be a legislator.
Well, and if the mayor pays $10,000, if being the mayor pays $10,000, you have a job.
100%. Yep, you got it.
Oh my goodness.
Well, and you need to have an elected official who has to suffer the consequences
That's true.
of the policies that he enacts.
Right.
Very much so.
Fair point.
Yes.
All right. So mayor, mailman, got it.
Yes. No, I will. And by the way, I will not give a cent of that away because you get what you pay for. I believe that an elected official should take his salary, her salary, but nothing more.
Okay.
So, let's say I go to an IML conference, Illinois Municipal League. If I go to Chicago and I'm able to hobnob with the hip and fabulous, that should be very clear. I'm going to go spend $300 on a hotel room every night, or $400 on a hotel room every night, and I'm going to expense my expenses. And that's fine.
Yes.
But I should be upfront and welcome the question, why did this cost so much?
Yeah. Why did you have to spend $300 on dinner?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Very much so.
I had a blank check.
Yes. And so when I went up last September, I did not stay overnight, so there was no hotel room. But I spent $35 on lunch, and then my mileage back and forth. So it probably cost taxpayers $150 for me to go do that.
Okay.
And then I made it a point to, this is what I'm learning. I put on Facebook, hey, I'm doing a TIF conference. This is what I'm learning at the TIF conference, and here are the questions that I have coming up. And I put that in real time for the people to consider. And I think that's what we should do. And I'm not saying you can't go and spend a night, but be open about it. This is what it's costing the people, so that they can say, are we getting our money's worth from you doing it?
Well, and if you or I go on vacation, or go, not together, but if you and your wife go on vacation or take your daughter somewhere, you're going to look for a good deal. You're going to maybe use an app to try to find savings. It looks good if people who are traveling using other people's money are still trying to save some, or still trying to be responsible with that money.
All day. And what I don't know...
I have to do it.
Well, yes, absolutely so. And and it might not even be don't stay at the hotel of the conference.
Sure.
Maybe the conference is 3 days. I'm spending one night overnight there because it's just that it's just that expensive.
And maybe the hotel across the street or whatever.
Yes. Yeah,
Something
very
like
much.
that. Yeah, look around. Cool. Okay. I have a question here from someone else that is talking about the benefit of small government. Is it better or worse than large government, and how?
Okay, so small government, in my opinion, is inherently better than large government. A government that can do anything for you can also do anything to you. I also believe that governments don't have the same set of priorities as individuals. And so working for the post office, working for a union, I've worked in government bureaucracies. You kind of want your pile of money to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas we as private citizens want to maximize our own budgets, getting the most with the least. And so I think that smaller government is better on a number of different levels. For one is, I think people by and large want to be left alone. When we're driving down the road, if I'm doing 90, I want the cop pulling me over.
Okay.
If I'm doing 60 and a 55, I really don't.
Right.
That's kind of an unwelcome intrusion into my life.
Yeah.
Exactly so. So if I'm burning garbage, by all means, I can't do that. I'm poisoning my neighbors.
Right.
If I'm burning lawn waste, leave me alone. This is my property, and this is what I'm doing with this.
Right.
And so, additionally, I believe that people inherently want to be free. It's what we're doing here in the country in the first place. And so the more restrictions that government puts on people, the less like our founding it really is. If you go back to the founding of the United States, Washington, D.C. was a malaria-filled swamp. Nobody wanted to be here. There was no full-time congressman. That's something that's changed over the history of the country. I think we have to go back to, we in public service serve the public. And there's nothing in it for us. Almost like a disincentive to keep doing it. And so really, my bias is I would like to, frankly, become mayor, and I would like to clean up that which is cancerous in my opinion, is cancerous in Marseilles city politics.
You need to feel more like a volunteer and less like a king.
100%. And then when I've done the good that I've done, it should be expected that I'm going to go do something else. Because...
Like, I've done the best I can. I can turn this over if I need,
100%.
And someone else can try it too.
Yes. And then if there's more work to be done, okay, Scheib, why didn't you do it?
Okay.
Yep.
Another thing I was thinking about the small government is you can react faster as a mayor versus like the president of the United States. You have a lot less people between you and the community you're helping. So you can change things, hopefully, in a shorter amount of time because of the red tape issues, maybe if you get some of that out of the way. Do you think that the community being full of people who have lived here forever is an advantage to you, or do you want some more fresh people coming in to help you have a different perspective?
I think you need both.
Okay.
I think you need, so Marseilles, wonderful history to Marseilles.
A lot of it.
And something that I think we disagree on is I love the Kentucky, I love the Martucky, I love the...
Yes, I have the sticker on my car.
But I also appreciate it's sort of needlessly divisive.
Yes.
You know, so I am a big fan of the history of Marseilles.
Right.
I love that blue collar people came out to work in the mines,
Yes.
that came up to work in Nabisco. But I think that is a history to be cherished, and not that you don't think that, but you know, did I pick a fight needlessly? Is kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But I think that we should be very proud of the people that built Marseilles, but very welcoming to those who are coming in from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I do think that there has been a pattern of personal intimidation to those who didn't fit the regime's desires.
Sure.
That is prevalent and long-standing.
With people who have been here for a long time, or only with new people?
No, people who've been here for a long time.
Okay.
So during the debate over the building, I regularly went to business owners who said, we're overpaying for that building, but please don't tell anybody I said this. And that was unacceptable to me.
You shouldn't be afraid to talk.
You should never be afraid to speak your mind.
And you should
ever,
never be
ever,
shut
ever.
down. You should always be allowed to talk.
So I had a friend of mine who said, Mike, I love you, but I disagree with you on the park. I was afraid you'd be angry. I said, quite the contrary. I want you to disagree with me. Again, the whole point is if two people agree on everything, one of them isn't necessary. We have to come to a point in Marseilles where we're willing to say, I don't see the same thing you do on this question. You know, we have to be able to chew the fat, to say, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
You know, whether it's on a building, whether it's on a park, whether it's on our form of government. Because if there are 3 votes for yes and 2 votes for no, then 3 votes win no matter what the 2 votes think.
Yes.
Which kind of works into my system of government.
Right,
As
I wanted
long-
to ask you about
As long as we're a commission form of government, if I'm the mayor, I don't even want to vote in the case of a tie.
Yeah.
The whole idea of a commission form of government is each individual is in charge over that one sphere of city government.
Right.
So I wouldn't even want to vote as mayor of Marseilles unless it's 2-2.
And I can see the advantage of that. So you are in charge of streets. So that's your job, and you know everything there is to know about the streets. So the person over here who's in charge of the police department, they know everything about that. They don't have to worry about the streets. You guys can be experts in your own, niche. But you have talked about changing that government style. How does that happen? How does that get done? And what would we change to?
Great question. So the hope would be that it would change from a commission form of government to a council manager form of government.
Okay.
And that has happened in Streeter. I think it was probably 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so instead of having like 5 people over 5 different areas, 4 commissioners plus the mayor who's the liquor commissioner, you would have a council that collectively made policy, and then a city manager that would say negotiate contracts or give information that was relevant to the council for their consideration. And in Oglesby, they recently had a vote, do we change the form of government? And sadly,
Who votes?
the residents did.
Okay. It's not a vote among the commissioners.
Correct. There was a vote amongst the residents, and it failed. And so they're keeping the commission form of government. And I don't know the particulars of the case, but I believe that it was not presented in the most efficient way. Perhaps the desire to change the form of government was not as clear and benevolent as it could have been.
And I think if you've been here for 5 generations and this is how it's always been and it's been working and my great-grandfather liked it, then there is some fear of change because you feel like it's been working, but maybe you just haven't seen the benefit of how it could be. It might be working, but is it great for your community?
Well, and I think that it's kind of like the old Chicago machine. The Chicago machine failed when Michael Volandich was mayor and they couldn't handle a blizzard. The roads weren't getting plowed.
Right.
Well, here in town, our roads aren't doing great.
Right.
Our sewers aren't operating well.
Yep.
It's not working. So it would be different if everything was as we would think it should be, but it's not.
well-oiled machine.
Exactly right. The machine ain't well oiled.
Right.
And anyone who travels down Illinois Street can say what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
And I'm very welcoming to, hey, Scheib, what have you done? Now I've been in the streets department for 2 years, and we've gotten a bunch of roads paved, and people have noticed a whole lot has been done and hasn't been done recently. Having said that, I would much rather 5 people be looking at Illinois Street than just me. And we don't have that right now. And we don't have a separately hired city manager with a master's in public policy or public administration who would really be schooled to know this is what engineering should cost. This is what...
Right, because when we put out a call for bids, people can just come in from anywhere and we don't know what number we should be looking for?
Well, so number one, we don't bid for engineering at all.
Okay.
Number two, we bid for construction.
Right.
So universal asphalt, advanced asphalt, whatever. But, yeah, like how would I know if 600,000? Yeah, 100%. And the way we do our elections is the top 4 get elected.
Okay.
Whether they know a dang thing about streets, public works, public property, finance. If you're one of the top 4 popular candidates, you get elected whether you know anything or you don't.
Okay.
And I think that's inherently problematic.
Yeah, I can see that being. Yeah. Do you have leadership experience?
I am the president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 316.
Nice.
So Ottawa and Marseilles, and we've just expanded to the street.
Okay.
So not only have I led a union branch, but it has appealed to another union branch that they have decided to join with us. So I think that's probably the most clear example, but I've managed to raise 3 happy and efficient children. Yeah. Oh my gosh! And my wife is a scout master.
I really like Michael, but
let's not deny it.
Let's just say
that she
he stands in the shadow of his amazing wife.
Let's not deny it. However, that just shows that I make good choices, right?
Yes, you did.
And so people in Marseilles can trust me to make good choices because I made that excellent choice.
Now don't screw that up because she's great.
Well, let's not deny it.
Okay. So if you have someone disagreeing with you in a political way, and you guys cannot come to an agreement, what do you do next?
Well, so the issue is there's a democratic process. Mm-hmm. They make their case, I make our case, and we have a vote.
Okay. So
and then you
would just put something to a vote if it were that.
And if they get more votes on the council than I have, then they win.
Sure.
And no harm, no foul. That's a beautiful thing.
Right. Cool.
That's the way it's supposed to work. It's like you make your best case, make my best case, and let the chips fall where they may. Yes. No need to threaten someone's job.
Take their home.
Take their homes. Yes. None of that. Yeah. No. Well, and the thing is, and I also accept that I might think I'm right, but if the people aren't with me in a democratic society, they get their way. That's the way it should be. So I think it's Oliver Wendell Holmes that said that if the people of New York want to send themselves to hell, it's my job to make sure they get there safely.
Cool.
It's like if there is a majority interest in doing Project X, and I don't agree with Project X, the majority gets to rule. That's popular sovereignty. The people decide. It's my job.
And then at the end, you can say, well, okay, you guys wanted this, and we tried it, and unfortunately, it didn't work.
Absolutely so.
Let's try something else. You don't have to shame them. You don't have to be angry that we tried it. We tried it. It didn't work.
So in my own life, I'm a ruthless self-experimenter. Let's see if I do this differently in my own life and see how it works.
Okay.
Why not for a community?
Right.
Why not? Nobody dies.
Right.
You had a great idea. Okay, did it work? Did it not work?
Yeah. What else do I have for you? Why don't more people run for office?
Okay, so the textbook answer is the costs of service outweigh the benefits of it.
Okay.
So as a commissioner, I make $420 a month. And is it worth it? Financially, no. So that's
and
part
you're
of
not
it.
sleeping at night.
No.
And it causes stress, that may carry into your household. Not you personally, but just in general.
No, it does. Frankly, it does. My wife notices, you're getting up a lot throughout the night.
Sure.
So that's a thing. And then, of course, my 2 kids who said, why are you doing this? And now
I don't know. Why didn't you stop me?
No. And they'll say, I told you so.
Okay.
Yeah, you really did.
Uh-huh.
So there's that. But, I think the reason why people don't want to get involved in local politics is they think they're going to be judged and treated poorly.
Yes.
And what I want to tell the people watching this is, get involved in local politics because if I'm in charge, I will not treat you poorly.
Yeah,
I will
because-
treat you with respect. I will say, let's have it out. Let's discuss the pros and the cons, and we have a rational legal process by which to work out disagreements, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Because right now it is not a safe place to clear that down.
100%. 100%, and that is unacceptable. The fact that people do not want to dissent publicly is not okay.
And if I agree with you, awesome, we can talk about it. And if I disagree with you, I shouldn't have to hide and worry about you, you know, coming on my property or talking about me to other people in public ways that, you know, we should just be able to say, you know what, we disagree.
And that is what that's the way forward for the
I don't
country.
want to be afraid.
Yes, all day, all day. You know, make your case, I make my case, and then let the voters decide, let the city council decide. That's the way democracy should work. It's not the way it is working, it's the way it should be.
Okay, last question I have for you. If people don't vote or don't get involved, do you think that they deserve a county government, you know, that they can complain about?
Okay, so,
That is a very, that's quite a question.
oh, it is.
I didn't write it. I'm okay with asking
Yes,
it,
no,
but I wouldn't
okay,
ask it.
so
I'm scared.
it's a marvelous
That's
question.
heavy.
It's a marvelous question. In a republic, do we deserve the government that we choose? And it goes way back to the founding.
Okay?
A lady asked Benjamin Franklin, what kind of government are you creating in the Constitution? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. And with all due respect, I would like to facilitate a better form of government for the people of Marseilles, but the people have to be willing to demand it. And if they don't, that will be the consequence. Will they deserve it? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say things are awful and you deserve it.
Deserve is a word.
Exactly right. Like that would be a bridge I would not want
I
to
don't know
cross.
that, yeah.
However, having said that, could you have stopped it and you chose not to? Yes.
And it's scary right now to speak up, but if you don't, it will continue. It might get worse.
It
I
will
don't
get
know.
worse.
I think we have to do something because this isn't working for the majority of people.
And now, having said that, I am very confident that the people will want change. The people actually welcome my open, inquisitive, welcoming to disagreement attitude.
Yes,
I really believe that people are with it.
Yeah.
We'll find out in April of 2027.
All right, sounds good.
Well, Shannon, thanks so much for
Thank
talking to
you.
me.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Have a
I'll
great one.
turn this off.
Oh, yeah, well.
That one.